Some people watch way too many Guy Ritchie movies. It's like the cognitive function of their brain has punched the reality out of them and given them this deluded impression that they are bigger and badder than everybody else on this planet. Nathan Kelso, 37 years old from Stockport, Greater Manchester, and his scumbag of a friend, 36-year-old Luke Wilson, attacked a teenager in a Happy Step-style ambush and recorded it for their own sick pleasures. Now, to the general public, Nathan Kelso is a dad of three, and for all intents and purposes, he is a functioning member of society. But that all went downhill when he lured his teenage victim to a mutual meeting place on the premise of odd job style works in order to put cash in his pocket. His motive behind the stupid attack was asinine at best. Nathan Kelso, to his mates, described himself as a gangster. Now, Nathan Kelso and Luke Wilson both have lengthy criminal histories. As for Kelso, at the time of the attack, he was literally on a suspended sentence. This is when logic doesn't prevail. You have three kids, they need feeding, they need shelter, they need a mother, and they definitely need a father. You've already messed up multiple times, but thankfully the judge gave you a suspended sentence in order for you to continue to provide for your family. And what do? You set up a teenager because you think he may be a grass. The key word here is maybe. Nathan Kelso also had no concrete proof. So, when the teenager arrived at Stockport City Centre, it quickly became apparent the promise of work was a facade, and the teenager had indeed fell into a trap. Courts were told Nathan Kelso grabbed the 18-year-old Adam Scott and slashed his face, from his earlobe to across his cheek and down towards his throat, after calling him a grass. The diameter of the slice was 6 inches, now that's half a foot. Because the dad of three was such a sicko, he got his best mate, delivery driver, who may I add should have had more sense than to go along with the attack, used his mobile phone and filmed the ambush. The duo were also seen on CCTV fleeing the scene. Adam Scott was left staggering away, trying to seek help while he left a trail of blood everywhere, from the scene of the crime to his nearby home in an apartment block where he managed to call emergency services. Who knows if Adam Scott did grass on Nathan Kelso? I'm personally inclined to believe that he didn't because of the following. Number 1. Adam Scott was a victim of a vicious assault, an assault that could have literally killed him. Doctors at the Manchester Royal Infirmary described the severity of his injuries, stating that the victim was left with a gaping hole on his face. Despite the seriousness of his injuries, Adam Scott refused to name his attackers. And number 2, CCTV seized by police showed the assailant, Luke Wilson, driving his van to the scene of the crime and back to his address in Bridlington. Police were even able to gather CCTV of Luke Wilson and Nathan Kelso cleaning out the van with a mop and bucket. The courts heard how 18-year-old Adam Scott had required 20 stitches and had his saliva gland partially severed. Despite all this, he discharged himself the same night after he had been quoted as telling the police officer at the hospital if he gave up the names of his attackers, it would not be worth his life. At the height of the court case, Luke Wilson shifted most of the blame onto Kelso, saying that although he was a participant in the crime, he could not have foreseen the level of violence. Essentially, his role in the attack was a passive one. Wilson wanted the courts to know that he was a family man, and he did not once hold a weapon in his hand. Kelso went with a family angle too. His defence team argued that he was a father of three and he did not represent a risk of harm to the public at large. In order to nail the mind-boggling concept home, his ex-partner and the mother of his children issued a statement. It read, "Kelso is a good father and has always been home for bath time and bedtime and was always providing." The recorder of Manchester judge Dean QC essentially says that the two men had inflicted serious wounds on the victim because they thought he may be a grass, which hasn't been proven. Whatever the case may be, the attack was premeditated and to an extent planned. It was not an act of spontaneous violence. Both men pleaded guilty to wounding with intent. For their crimes, they were both told they would serve a sentence of 9.5 years. Kelso and Wilson were also told they would be released on licence 2/3 of the way through their sentence. As for Adam Scott, it will actually be a miracle if he isn't emotionally scarred from the attack he had to endure. Psychiatrists believe that people with permanent scars through accidents or assaults go through a remodelling of their emotional state and are more prone to develop depression and anxiety, which creates a strain in a ton of social settings. Every time he looks in a mirror or catches his reflection in a window or a TV screen, he will have a permanent reminder pertaining to what he went through. All I can say to Adam Scott is, good luck. Safe.